Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up?
Yay! No, my computer decided to not detect the mic after I installed Mojave. So it was like,
Surprise.
surprise, it works though. All right, hold on, BRB.
Should probably look at the agenda.
Hi.
Hey. How's a person that makes me happy? How's Gwen today?
I'm actually having a non-Gwen start today. I'm like,
Oh no.
whoa, too much excitement. Is this what I do to people all the time?
No, I did that to my wife this
Yes,
morning.
it is.
Yeah, she was very much. We changed our routine for morning. Like I'm getting up early now, so like I've been up for probably an hour and a half to 2 hours when she wakes up. So like even without coffee, you give me 2 hours and like the medicines I have to take first thing in the morning, I'm gonna be awake. Yikes! Yeah, I was super happy this morning.
Mornings are, I don't know, whoever designed mornings.
Jonas is a morning person.
I am now, yeah. 5:30, rise and shine.
It doesn't get any better until they're able to feed themselves. Sorry.
I feel like I need like obligatory like West Coast gripings right now, though. Like,
No, I'll give you those.
I feel disadvantaged regardless of whether I'm a morning person or not, because even if I do get up at 6:45 because my stupid kid has school stupid early. Actually, his school is stupid, not my kid, but whatever. Yeah, it's not good.
More coffee for Gwen, please.
It looks like pretty much everyone's running late, so we'll start in a couple of minutes.
How are you, Paris?
I am good. I am trying to find a brush so I can brush my hair so I can come on camera.
We can make this a silly hat one if you need to.
I might. Truly. It's like, well, the worst part is it's, I mean, I don't think it's hot. All the other Californians think it's hot, but like it's 80 degrees right now.
It's not hot. Sorry.
I know, I don't think it's hot either, but like, well, the thing is, I live on the top floor of a walk-up, and I have no AC.
Yeah, it's gonna be hot. Yeah.
And I live in the middle of Oakland, downtown proper, where like construction is going on crazy. So I had to close all my doors and all of the windows just to take calls today. And I'm like already just like sweating with water at this point.
If it makes you feel better, it's supposed to be 107 here today.
I know, right? Well, you see, you have AC though. People in Vegas are like, it's hot here. Maybe we should invest in AC. Like,
yeah, it's gonna be like over 80 here in Seattle, I think, which is basically like over 100 everywhere else. And also, we don't have AC.
Yeah, I don't understand this houses without AC thing. Being from the South, Michigan's the same way, and it's like how. I don't even care if you only need it for a week. Just how. My in-laws' house is like that, and it's like, nope. We'll host all the parties here. All right, there she is. She's on.
We can't hear you.
I'm standing in my kitchen just because it's like the least like super hot. I decided to roast a cauliflower last night, and it was like 90 degrees in here. I was like, yeah, let's roast some stuff. Besides me.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I was gonna make ribs for dinner. That is not happening.
Is Elsie on? I don't think she's running the show today.
She's traveling today, I think.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, let's get the song on the road. Now that we're 3 minutes in, let me lazy link the stuffs we need. All right. Everybody ready to go? Spoke their piece before the YouTube trimmers will trim our faces out. All right, let's do it. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday, June 12th edition of Kubernetes Contributor Experience. My name is Paris. I was having a bad hat day, and my friends here decided that they would wear hats with me, hair day rather. And so my friends decided they would wear hats with me. So here we are. Welcome to our show today. We have our usual contributor circus of open mics, plus program updates and some project board reviews. I know Nico has a long topic in here, but to get things started, of course, we do have a code of conduct. Please be excellent to each other. If you have something to say, just put your hand up. I'll try to look at all of our faces when we get started so that I can see, or just ping in the chat. I don't think I see any new contributors on the line right now. Not yet, at least. Amy, actually. Amy, have you ever been on this call before?
No, I have not.
Why don't you introduce yourself really quick?
Sure, and I'll even turn on video and you can see all of my lovely painting going on behind me. Hi, I'm Amy, and I'm a program manager with the CNCF, and I am sitting in to be able to kind of hear what all is going on in here.
Well,
So,
we got a lot of going on, so thanks
sure do.
today. And Nico, I think you've been to the call before, but if not, feel free to introduce yourself too before we do open mic, okay? I also see some other people in the participants list. If you've never been to this call before and you would like to introduce yourself, feel free to do so now. If not, then we can do it later. Anybody? Last call? All right. So next is our regular program updates. These would be things like office hours, meet our contributors, community meeting, our chair email that we do on a need basis, as well as contributor summit updates. First, I don't think George is on. I think he said he was gonna be 30 minutes late, right? Does anybody know who's hosting the community meeting tomorrow? If not, I'll follow up with him. All right, and then meet our contributors. I do need some more folks for next month. That would be July. Can't believe it's already like midway through the year. Here we are. For those who don't know, Meet Our Contributors is our monthly YouTube mentoring series, Mentors on Demand, if you will, that we have. So if people who are interested in either upstream contributing, or if they're current contributors and having issues or want some advice or mentorship or guidance, whatever, I would love to have any of you that's on this call on that program, especially if you've never been on. I promise it's not that serious. It's just answering questions in a very light way. And that is 7:30 a.m. on July, I think 3rd, if I can recall. So right before United States 4th of July holiday. So that's it for Meet Our Contributors. Oh, we are doing only one now. It's the same thing with office hours. Office hours both had 2 time zones. One outperformed the other, not necessarily by much, but we wanted to see if we could hit other time zones to get that same coverage that we get on the 7:30 in the morning ones. Anybody on the call have anything that you think our SIG chairs or tech leads need to know this week?
So I sent out an email to the to KDev regarding like just thoughts about on SIG PM around around code freeze and the release cycle in general. It'd be cool if we could share that for the need to knows.
Done. Anyone else? All right. And looks like Lockie's hosting the community meeting tomorrow. I don't think he's on the line now, but I'll check with him in a little bit to make sure that he is good to go. I'm sure he is. And then the last regular program update that we have is from 3 of us. Jonas, why don't you go first for a recap of the Barcelona, anything in Barcelona or anything that you want to tell us about Barcelona?
Yeah, absolutely. Just before I do that, you haven't covered Barcelona at all while I was out. Is that correct?
No, I mean, we pretty much were like, it was a thing, it went off, it was awesome. Jonas,
Okay.
is coming back. Jonas is coming back soon. See you later. So,
yes, we had over 330 people registered for the event in total. I don't have the numbers yet on how many actually attended, but we did have a large group of both 101 new contributors and 201 new contributors, and then a bunch of SIG face-to-face meetings as well. The venue was really good, I think, for the content that we had. The meetings that were had as well. We had several rooms that were filled up quite quickly, so that's something that we need to look at for San Diego. But we, all in all, I think it was a good event. We are going to have a retro tomorrow at 11:30 Eastern time, and go through the survey results and talk about what worked and what didn't. But definitely having a dedicated events person, facilitator, Deb Giles, definitely helped us a ton in making sure that we have the event venue, food, and stuff like that. So yeah. Any questions?
awesome. Thank you so much, Jonas, for stepping up and leading us into that adventure. It was awesome.
It was super fun. I loved working with you all. You rock.
It was super fun. We definitely appreciate you. Does anybody have any questions for Jonas? All right. Shanghai, Red Hat, I see you.
Yep. So we almost have a schedule pinned down for the current contributor day. We'll have a fair amount of stuff, enough stuff given the expected attendance, although we haven't done some of the pushing on social media yet. The other thing is, I think the blog post is still sitting unreviewed. Where do I go to actually get somebody
Ping
look
Caitlin
at that
Bernard.
so it gets published before the before Shanghai actually happens?
Ping Caitlin Bernard on CNCF Slack.
Okay.
She's on Kubernetes.
Bad-
too, but you'll get her
Bad
fast.
news.
Bad news.
Caitlin is no longer with us. I will find the person that you are supposed to find. Just
Well, no, Caitlin is still in the owner's file and she's still doing the blog.
Oh, okay.
Welcome.
Yesterday was probably her last day at CNCF. I'll check into it.
I
Thank
think
you for the heads up.
I talked to her and I know for a fact that she's heading up the blog team. And yeah, no, everything is still operating normal on her side. It's just different employers. Yay, open source.
I think I'm in that owner's file, Josh. Do you just need to approve?
Well, I need to have. Whoops. Hold on.
I don't think any of us are in the website owner's file.
Yeah, I need to have happen whatever happens to get it published. There's both an English and a Chinese version.
Did you make a PR against the website, against the blog?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. No, cool. We'll just ping Caitlin. That's it.
Okay.
Anything else for Shanghai? Do you need us to do anything?
That's about it. There are issues with Shanghai, but they're all logistical issues that have to do with the venue, and the CNCF is on that as much as is possible to fix anything. Let's just say that this is I believe another one-time venue. So is anybody else on the call going to Shanghai? Well, anyway, the good news is that like the whole reason to have the current contributor day in the first place was that we have a bunch of Chinese contributors who can't necessarily make it to, say, KubeCon North America. And they have actually shown up to help with it and to run sessions and stuff. So we'll have some good stuff there with like code base review and how to write a cap and a bunch of other things.
Very cool. All right, questions for Josh re Shanghai. All right, San Diego, we are kicking things up. Our first meeting is Monday at 10 a.m. I do have 2 issues that I'm going to link in the agenda right now. One I just closed. It was build the team. The team has officially been built. This is our first event ever that we're doing a shadow program, which is freaking awesome. Of course, inspode from the release team. So thanks to all the release team people that work on stuff like that. But we've been PRing in rule books and all kinds of cool things like what's an event lead, what's a registration lead, stuff like that, so that we could have a little bit more sustainability. And then we can have some rotation amongst leads and things like that. So that's San Diego. Questions, concerns, comments with San Diego? All right. I dig it.
So
then, go ahead.
do we have definitions of the position somewhere? Is that going to happen on Monday?
No, we have started that. So feel free. It's in the events folder. And then go ahead into the events team section, and in there you'll see different kinds of like events lead.md and stuff like that. All right. So let's not do project board today. I'm actually going to revoke this really quick because I know that Nico has a very long conversation that he wants to do about project-wide triage workflow. But in that same breath, regarding project-wide workflow, I did send out that email to contributor experience this morning for something that we discussed last week about our personal project boards and meetings and things along those lines. So check those out. But in the meantime, Nico, do you want to take it away with what you wanted to talk about for the project-wide triage workflow?
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm here to talk about issue triage and changes that will affect a lot of things apparently. So I left a lot of notes in the agenda. The overview is there from the beginning to the end. So why a rework is needed and new features are needed to be added, because SIGs have trouble with organizing the open issues, mainly on KK, which is, it can be the start of the changes. It doesn't need to be applied anywhere else, really. That's the main concern, the main KK repo. And SIG chairs have openly expressed their concern about problems on managing issues, and especially incoming issues, like new ones. For example, SIG network has like, I don't know, 300 issues. How can they have visibility on what they already have seen, what's the status of them, how to prioritize them, etc., etc. It's KK repo has 2,000 issues all the time, a lot of incoming, new ones, etc., etc. So out of the big ticket I created, which is the topmost link, the first change is about adding a needs triage label to all new incoming issues. And this label will then be removed after the appropriate status is given on an issue. And another proposal is to alter the existing triage labels, which are mostly unused, to possibly utilizing life cycle, which life cycle is already used by the data bot with stale and rotten, and then closing, which is already there, the functionality. So after an issue has been seen by the SIG, it can get a label such as lifecycle active, which is basically saying that this issue is actively being worked on, someone is working on it, or lifecycle ready is it has been triaged, but it's still in the backlog, ready to be prioritized, etc. So this is the first item, I guess, about the needs triage label. And with it is the label rework, like renaming triage labels to closed, because there is currently confusion and they're not used, and utilizing life cycle ones and changing a few more. So what are your thoughts about this?
I mean, I dig it. I feel like my problem is that like we don't even know as our SIG what we want to do with triage yet, let alone do project-wide triage. I mean, that's my only concern. And I feel like we should be pushing SIGs to build triage teams. And then those teams would have the responsibility of the how, what, why, where, when, and then document that. But I mean, I always like project-wide anything. I just feel like from my past experience, getting project-wide anything is pretty much like moving mountains.
So I think that it's less of a problem of, so there are two problems, right? How a SIG does triage or how some group does triage, and then the automation or the potential automation that would support it, right? So what we're saying is we want to turn that on, right? And then enable them to consume it, right? Like right now, as Nico was saying, like we're kind of stuck. Like the bug triage sucks is the short version, and essentially like that has to be done by a team of a few people for the release team, right? And then they kind of lack the context to be able to do that across the 31, 32 SIGs that we have right now. So
I think that having dedicated triage teams per SIG will cause a lot of I need to remember the word, like branching out of many methods of doing things. The idea I'm proposing is that we should have a one unifying guideline as to best practice as per SIGs can follow. And SIGs can then choose whether to follow it or not. And it's the, I don't know, contribex, like in the best concern of everyone to have an actually good guideline to actually solve this problem. So most people benefit from following it.
So this is PM really, right? And you know, part of it is we don't plan on establishing that guideline. We don't want to do that for anyone just yet, right? We haven't turned anything on yet, right? What we're saying is like give people the option to opt in by providing the automation for that, and then allow the guideline to kind of present itself as a result of that.
So I'll chime in with a couple thoughts. So first off, project-wide versus KK. I think we need to, there is so many different discrete projects that we have inside of Kubernetes. We need to, like, providing automation and providing tooling that like other repos and other sub-projects can consume is great from a design perspective. For KK specifically, the main core repo, we need something that everybody's going to agree to. Because if we turn on automation for one team, it turns on automation for the entire repo. We can't like sub-scope the automation inside there, especially if we're going to be like a new issue is opened, we automatically add a label. We also need to think about things like the various different types of issues that get filed, and how we're working in the bigger picture there. I think if we're looking strictly, if we keep things scoped fairly small, so say we have like needs triage as a label, and then it's canceled out by a life cycle label, any life cycle label, or specifically like, you know, ready or active or something like that. Like if we keep it scope fairly small, it's easier to gain consensus there. Where the biggest concern that I have with this is dealing with like the closed set of labels, and like renaming them to triage. The closed set of labels, like the reason we steered away from closed when we originally set up the triage labels as it stands is things reopen. They're not necessarily accurate. Do they really serve a purpose? Are we going to like consume data from those labels? Like right now, as far as I know, we're not consuming that data. So I don't know if we need that. If it's accurate, do we care about how many dupe issues that we have? Is that a statistic that anybody actually cares about and we would consume? Things like that I like. As soon as we start blowing out the scope of this, that we're like talking about multiple labels, we're talking about closed, we're talking about priority. Like there's a larger, the discussion on the issue is definitely bigger than just like needs triage, life cycle active. If we start blowing out the scope into be a bit of a bigger thing, then that's harder to gain consensus around. And we need at least some sort of like, we need to buy in and get buy-in from different SIGs and get consensus if we're going to turn on something for the core repo.
So yeah, all we want to accomplish before we start 116 is to turn on those labels. Like that, like everything else that's involved in that proposal can be handled later. I think that like this is something that's going to decrease the burden across everyone who's doing triage on these things, the release team as well as all of the SIGs, right? So Nico, so I provided a link. It's on that umbrella issue. That is essentially the state machine, or like my mental model of what these labels would do and the exit criteria for each of them. So take a look at that. And then Nico has an individual PR that just tackles adding the labels in label sync, as well as the Proud plugin missing label needs triage, right? So like that's the only thing that we want to accomplish first and foremost.
But that doesn't necessarily like, so the thing that you've linked to, like your state machine, that's the thing that I have the most concern with. Like that is exceptionally complicated, and that is going to need a whole lot of buy-in before we can move forward. Like having these various states that labels like conflict with each other, that I have a whole lot of concern about, as opposed to just like two labels that cancel each other out. The other thing that we do need to answer is if we're going to use the word triage, we do need to answer what's going to happen with the current labels, because people will get confused. If there's like a triage set of labels that doesn't cancel out needs triage. So if we're talking like minimum viable product here, we definitely need like to scope very specifically like the needs triage label, what cancels it out, and I would highly recommend keeping that scope as small as possible, as well as then answering what happens with the current set of triage labels. Do we care about them, or do we get rid of them completely?
So that's already in the PR that Nico issued, not the umbrella issue itself, but the PR that he did, right?
That needs to be documented in like written, because like what we can't. To gain consensus for us from Contrivex, we need to go out and gain consensus of like other SIGs. It needs to be written down exactly like that very small bit, Because right now, looking at the issue is your state machine, which is way bigger.
Cool. As far as the triage labels go, I don't care about them that much. I think that moving them to closed provides value if people want to do analytics on the things that are closed. I understand the whole like if things get reopened, then there's a whole kerfuffle around that. I don't personally care about those labels too much. Just providing like what could happen to them. So yeah, you're right. We can tighten this up a little bit, but it seems that people are in pain, right? So we're trying to figure out like what we can do as a nice first step to help them out.
So I think first and foremost, we can all agree that the current triage labels are not used by anyone and are actually confusing in their usage. So sometimes they are used, but the documentation itself has a different meaning than the one who thinks something means. Like they just create confusion rather than solve anything. So I think that dissolving them as a whole is a good choice, and there can be just lazy consensus. We don't need explicit consensus by everyone because it's way too many people. And moving them to closed is essentially like a half deletion. Like you just change the name to avoid the confusion, and they are still there, and people can still use them if they want to. In terms of automation about analytics and automatically putting something closed when something gets closed, I think it's optional, and it's beyond the main purpose of the rework. So the triage labels are something like a blocker for the MVP itself. And I think the MVP itself is the niche triage labels, basically, and the rework of the lifecycle ones to have a more weight, let's say, more usability to indicate whether something is worked on, whether something has been seen, because that's the thing that bug triage sort of does right now. There is no visibility whether something is being worked on, something is left, forgotten, and only the 90 days of the threshold of the Theta bot, where it puts the stale, etc., to give some indication that this maybe has been forgotten, or it might be even false, like something might be worked on, but Theta bot made 90 days pass and it applies or something. So another suggestion on that specific, the staleness, is to even increase the threshold from 90 days to more, so it happens less frequently, because like after something has been triaged, then it might be cancelled after ThetaBot applies the stale thing. But that's a secondary concern, I think. And the main concern is just get the needs triage there. So SIGs can utilize it. That's the main thing. And that's the main concern from the initial Google Groups link I posted, where there are the concerns from SIG chairs.
So yeah, I guess to reiterate where I'm at is the umbrella issue that was linked is like, there's a lot of discussion on it. There's different things being proposed there. If we can scope the proposal, even if you want to create a new issue and it's like, here's what we want to do today, and then keep the umbrella issue for the long-term vision of like what a state machine could look like, but just so here's what we want to do for what, like the 1.16 release cycle, and here's the minimum viable product that we want to roll out and that we want to explicitly get consensus around. If we had something clear like that, that makes it a lot easier for us to then go and seek consensus. Because something like this, having done a whole bunch of label changes myself across both Kubernetes as well as the entire, like all of our organizations, labels get a little bit controversial. People really care about their labels, and they care what they mean, and they care about their workflow and using them. So this is something that we need to definitely like actively ping people on. So it'll probably be like a longer consensus period, and it will be, hey, SIG chairs, go please have this discussion. Once we have like a very clear, concise proposal, Go have this discussion in your SIG. Give us feedback. This is the minimum viable product. Here's maybe the long-term vision, and this is the kind of the timeline that we want to proceed on. And if we have those things in place, I think that's how we can kind of drive things home and get consensus without a whole bunch of backlash that we're changing people's workflows.
The thing is that in terms of incoming new issues, I don't think there's any workflow in place. Like literally, it's just people just going to the KK repo and finding in their SIGs and seeing if something is not, like, there's a lot of repetition going on and opening and reading issues that might have been read and finding the comments, and there's a lot of reverse engineering going on. And it seems that we don't have like any SIG lead in the call that is actively like from code per se that deals with these things to have an actual opinion. But it tries to give a feature that is not there at all, and the proposal is sort of already clear. The reason for this call, this discussion to happen in this call, is to have like to hear objections or concerns, and if it's about just making the proposal itself, then it's there, and all it needs to is I think I also propose to simply create an email and perhaps some short documentation of 1 page of what it's going to be like, and then mail it to the groups of contribex and like cross SIGs, I don't know the exact groups, but something that encapsulates all of them. So there can be a lazy consensus period of 2 weeks perhaps, and that would be enough for concerns to be raised by the actual end users of this mechanism. And after that, we can finally push the merge button after some extra things need to be resolved with the PR itself, some mechanics, etc. And that would be both for the NITS triage and the label changes, because the triage labels need to go.
To be explicit about a couple things. Number one, contribex is a stakeholder in this, and I'm saying no, that's not good enough. We, as far as like how we seek consensus with this, we have encountered this. This is feedback that we've received, that like labels get controversial, people care about them, and I'm saying we need to set a high bar for like seeking consensus. Doing just lazy consensus for this will absolutely catch people off guard, and people will care about that. So I hear you that you want to move very quickly on this and that we want to kind of stop the bleeding, but the other thing that you said there around SIGs do not have existing workflows, that is also, like, I know for a fact that that is not true. Multiple SIGs do have workflows. They're not necessarily the best workflows. And I know there's SIGs that will be looking to improve those workflows, but there are SIGs that have workflows and have even developed their own automation, like SIG Network has some of their own automation around triaging their workflows.
So hold on a second. I mentioned on the issue that this needs to be a cap, right? Like period. Like this, that's how we describe large change in Kubernetes, right? This is a cap with PM and contribex as stakeholders in it. And we can go and seek, exactly like Christoph said, we can go and seek consensus from each of the SIG leads. I'm totally fine with that. We can, and as we're describing the cap, the implementation details will be, let's handle just the things that we need to do this minimum viable product, and then we can look at moving forward with that, and we can look at moving forward with the next steps of it in 117.
In regards to SIG not having workflows, I didn't really mean that they do not have workflows at all, but in regards to specifically incoming new issues, that's the problem. Like there's no mechanism to have to see what's new exactly, what is incoming, and that's what the NITS triage will provide. It's just a small feature that will be implemented in the workflows of the SIGs. And in regards to the SIG network, the example that you mentioned, Tim Hawkins specifically needs to move this forward as quickly as possible. Like he pinged the previous months multiple times, the PR that implements this. And in between, because there is it's supposedly a big change and needs some time and consensus, etc., etc. And they have went on and implemented the triage unresolved label on the new ones that have been triaged. However, the official documentation for that label, it means that it won't be resolved, which is not true. So there's a triage label on many, many issues. I think double digits, like 50 issues perhaps, I can't remember, that has a wrong meaning in the documentation. So they are only used by SIG Network in this meantime of the previous 2-3 months, and they have an incorrect usage. And the reason for that is because the feature is stalled. So unless I hear an explicit concern in terms of we can't do this because of that, like actually, like currently the concern I'm hearing is that people might have problems, but we don't know yet. We don't have an actual problem yet.
Hold on. Christoph has very explicitly said that people will have problems with this, right? And he's been a GitHub, admin for 1,000 years, basically, in the project, right? So I think that we should give some deference to that opinion, right? The way, introducing the triage unresolved label should not have happened. It should have gone through a discussion like this, right? During the time that I talked to Tim during KubeCon and said, like, how's your queue going, right? And they have drained their queue since then because of like some of the automation, the label that was introduced, and some of the automation that Valerie introduced, right, to do that, right? So she's running a bot on the side to my wig's falling off, so she's running a bot on the side to tag some of those things and do like fuzzy matching of things that are potentially SIG based, right? Like, again, that's kind of like, for us, I'm taking the wig off. For us, that's, I consider that to be like shadow IT for the project, right? That shouldn't have happened at all, right? So if we're going to go about doing this, we need to do it the right way, and we need to make sure that people aren't pissed off, right? Christoph is saying people will be pissed off about this, and I tend to agree, right? It's clear that there's pain, but we need to do it the right way. And Gwen had her hand up for a bit, so I'm going to cede the floor.
It might be outdated by now. I was actually going to suggest that if other SIGs have workflows, we should look for them, because that gives us better data on what works for them than trying to guess, right? So, but again, maybe SIG Network is too much of a wasp nest to poke at this point. But I don't know. I mean, it sounds like we have a great use case, and we can maybe ask them to collaborate and have them be part of the MVP. Is that?
I think that's a good point, because if people are doing shadow IT in the traditional shadow IT sense, and you don't bring them in to provide the solution, they will continue to do shadow IT.
Christoph, we can't hear you.
Can't hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, your mouse moving.
Oh, sorry. Two mute buttons. If we, I agree. And I feel like we, whether we do it as just create an issue, kind of describe what the proposal is, or whether we go through the KEP process, I'm not the biggest fan of KEPs, but I actually agree with Stephen. This is probably a very simple, short KEP, kind of describing what we want to do, and go through that process of lay a very short KEP out of here's the problem, here's our proposed solution, and then put it out for consensus. And we don't necessarily need everybody to sign off, but what we do need to do is, and this is the thing with the whole chairs and tech leads email that goes out, we need to get things really in front of people's faces, so it's not something that they can ignore, so that they have an opportunity to comment. And hopefully, if we can go here's the proposal, here's our proposed solution, keep it to that minimum viable product, and get it in front of their faces, then we can say okay, please please comment, please bring concerns to this if you have them. Otherwise, we really need to move forward with this to kind of stop some of the pain and to kind of get rid of this whole shadow IT thing.
I say we make SIG Network our guinea pig.
Sounds good.
Yes, Paris. So I linked the SIG cluster lifecycle workflow in the Zoom chat. Yes, stir that pot. So the future plan is, and I've been saying this for a little bit, but I'm finally starting to get the people who are willing to do some of that work, project managers around some of this, right? So project managers would lend themselves to figuring out how to coalesce a triage team, right, for individual SIGs. I know SIG Contribex is interested in project managers. I have like 5 or 6 people that are interested in doing project management for upstream. So soon, very soon. I would say that SIG cluster lifecycle is probably a good one to target too, since they are somewhat organized already, or more organized than a lot of the SIGs. Network was feeling the pain. If we can target a few more people that are feeling the pain and try to see if this fixes it. But we have to decide if we're going to do the KEP. Nico, do you want that? You're going to put that together? Rather, we are doing the KEP. Who wants to put it together? It's either going to be you or me.
Yeah, we can co-write it. I haven't written a KEP before, and it's not sure in this case, like it's a meta upstream change for GitHub. It's not something code related to the product itself.
It's process change. So KEPs apply to process change in Kubernetes, not just code.
Sure. Sounds good. We can do that. And timeline-wise, I think ideally it would be best if we could finish this process until the 116 cycle starts, which will be in some weeks from now, I think 3 or 4, or 2 or 3, or at the start of 116. So in the following month, the time scope should be enough, I think.
I'd agree. If we move fairly quickly on the KEP, and once we get the KEP out for review to like folks, if there's no objections, if we don't need to go back and revisit the plan, I don't want to necessarily like tie us that like we absolutely need to figure something out right for the start date of 116. But I think that's a very workable goal if we don't need to go and revisit the plan based on any feedback that we get.
Yeah, so we can merge like what we have fairly quickly, or kind of push it into KEP format and mark that as provisional and get that merged quickly. And then the conversation can happen as we switch it from provisional to implementable.
I will happily be a reviewer on that KEP.
Yay! Progress!
I also want to say thanks, Nico, for coming, and thanks for like putting the work that you've put in thus far to like organize this. This is definitely like a pain point in the project that like everybody agrees issue triage is not in a great place right now. And you know, people who care about moving that forward and working towards something that is like making that better, very appreciated.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the summary of my release team triage experience over the past year. In general, like that's the what I leave behind. So yeah, KEP sounds good. There are many other items on the list. I'm not sure how much this meeting runs.
I would say let's hold them maybe, and until we like firm up what we want to do with the next stuff. I think that a lot of the ideas that you have are noted on the umbrella issue. So if people are more curious about that, they can feel free to not take up more meeting time and just check them out on the issue. Thank you again. Like to kind of echo what Christoph was saying. My hope is like I have 2 hopes. One is to kill the release team. Put enough process and automation around the release team that it doesn't need to exist anymore. And 2, it's the people that are in the release team to move out of the release team and do something that affects the project in a big way, right? Not just serve on the release team tightly scoped, but affect the project in a huge way. And like this is a perfect example. So thank you.
Sorry, I was clapping on mute. I apologize. I was like, oh, why is no one else clapping with me? And then I was
Hey, I was clapping with you.
Thank you, Nico. All right, so Nico, I think you should like come back and hang out with us, to be honest. Meaning like hang out and you'll hear people come in and bitch about the labels, and you will hear the stuff that Christoph is talking about, because we have 40 SIGs and working groups and everybody wants to do their own thing. And it's been super hard trying to like do this from a scale perspective. So that's why we, have been poking holes. Nothing against like you or what you're saying. It's like, wow, we've had people come to us and have been very upset about things. So that's where that is. So I know George is on the line. Is Dawn or George, are you just taking this item for open mic?
Yeah, I just wanted to sync because so I was talking to Dawn, and I was like, I haven't done a KubeCon talk in like a year, so I figured it might be my turn to submit one. And I kind of wanted to do like a community status thing, but it might like conflict with like a talk you might submit or someone else might submit. So I was kind of hoping we could just like, is anyone planning on doing CFPs community-wise for, because Dawn and I were thinking about partnering up. It's going to be a day in the week of Kubernetes. We're just going to like, Mondays, this is what happens. Tuesdays, this is what happens. Wednesdays, and kind of put together a little story. So I just want to let people know so that if you're planning on covering a specific thing, we don't clobber you or all give the same talk.
Can you theme it to a Greek tragedy somehow? Or
Which
not?
one?
Are
think of a lot of tragedies.
Are you asking me to have KubeCon talk ideas like before the deadline day?
Right. Yeah. Like when's the week? When does it due?
Well, so
14th,
July 12th.
12th, yeah.
And I'm going on holiday at the end of the month, so like I need to get my CFPs in way early. That's why I just want to let people know early that we were thinking about doing this thing.
I was going to do another state of contributor community CFP. I don't know if that like...
We'll just CC you on our document. It's mostly empty right now, but
okay.
we're working on it.
I was literally going to do almost the same talk that I did in Barcelona.
Okay.
Except revised. So I don't know if that, like, it's just pretty much what we have now and what we need.
Okay. We can sync with you then. I'm just making sure. Is anybody else planning on submitting anything interesting? I don't know.
I've been banking around the idea of doing a CFP for the non-code initiative.
Okay.
So yeah, I was going to submit something, but not related to community at all.
Alrighty.
Jeff in chat said that he's also going to submit.
I see him. Okay, cool.
What is Tempelis? Templus?
Tempelis is what the whole automated Slack info stuff is called, because it is Greek for lazy, aka slacker.
Mm-hmm.
I approve.
Get your Slackfire sticker before it's too late.
I'm going to run it past my dad for grammatical correctness. Just
Please do.
That's all I had.
Or anybody else have any other open mic items or anything that they wanted to discuss with the group? I see Aaron's hand. Aaron, did you get another haircut? Looks good. Anyway,
Yeah.
Sorry.
I got more hairs cut. I don't want to derail the previous discussion. I just want to put out there that I don't think I've ever seen a KEP used for process changes. And I don't see any docs that say that KEPs are supposed to be used for process changes.
The SIG PM KEPs and the top level Kubernetes wide KEPs, about KEPs, yeah, the meta KEPs.
Okay. All right. I will shut up.
Oh man, I was hoping that would be more controversial.
Well, it's not exactly like spelled out in. Yep. No, I'm gonna stop talking.
Congratulations. You
My
gotta earn
my
the
daily
shout-out.
my daily SIG PM battle.
All right. I think that's it then.
So, can you send me that link, Stephen? Sorry, I don't see a SIG PM directory in caps.
Yeah, sure. No, they're the top level ones.
Okay.
You had your hand up too. Did you have something else?
Was that me?
Yeah, no, yeah. I thought you had your hand up. Unless you were
Yeah, no, the are the silly hats an everyday thing?
Only special occasions.
It's really only when I have bad hair. And then everybody feels bad for me, so then they put on their hat. So, yeah. Last call. All right, check your email and weigh in if you disagree about the meeting proposal times. Remember, but we're proposing bi-weekly and bi-weekly Contribex meetings, and then sub-projects meet on their own. All right, have a good week.
Peace.
Peace.
Thanks all.